Ben Young from Southwest, the Senior Vice President. Ben, what can you tell us about Seton Ridge?
First of all, Senior Vice President doesn't mean you're old. It just means that you're smart. So let's get that straight right away. Seton Ridge, great project for us. It is formerly lands of the Sisters of Charity next to the Mount. Closest large parcel of land to the city that has been left undeveloped. It's been in the care of the Sisters since the 1800s, so it's very unusual for a parcel of land to be left this long without being infilled. So it's a very unique opportunity for us. We spent a lot of time on the design. This will be like no other project that Halifax has seen. It is a mixed residential community with a very deliberate retail footprint that will give you an urban feel. We've taken a great deal of time in trying to plan out what this should look like, not just the homes and the multi-units, but how does that interface with the street, animate the street so all of the underground service, all the power, both primary and secondary, are buried. We're making all of the structured parking buried so that when you travel the street front, it's very animated. It will feel like an urban footprint in the downtown. And it's just an incredible project that people will drive through and they'll say, this is different. They may not be able to put their finger on it immediately, but when they look around, they will totally get it.
Is there commercial in there?
There will be some commercial. So the intent is to have a slate of amenities that would satisfy 90% of your needs. So if you can think about an urban grocer, a coffee shop, a bakery, most likely we will have a doctor's office supporting a pharmacy that would be there, maybe an optician. So a mix of services and sort of typical retail that you would need to sort of visit on a regular basis, either weekly or monthly type of thing.
And when are you planning to break ground? I know that some work has been started already, but when can we expect to build a home?
So road building to start in 2019, still trying to find out the exact month that we'll go in, and you'll start to see some buildings, both in multi-unit and the single families, go up in 2020.
And are there any builders selected yet, or that's on the down low for now?
No, we're talking now to business partners. We have a couple of people that that I know personally, have got great reputations in the city that are very interested in going in there. We have quite a lineup of people. We're fortunate that are showing a great deal of interest in the project. So we're at that stage. We haven't formalized anything on paper, but we're sort of shortlisting our candidates who will come in and act as partners on this project with us.
For the residential aspect, who do you expect your clientele, or let's say the people of that particular community, who are you expecting those people to be? Seniors, millennials, 40 plus?
I think we're going to find a very interesting mix, because you have multi-unit buildings that will be both. When we say multi-units, people would typically think of a multi-unit as an apartment building, just so we're not caught on industry jargon. But we will have some that will have a smaller footprint that would be a young professional that perhaps can't afford the rent of the downtown, doesn't want to pay the rent of the downtown, or wants to be priced just slightly lower than a condo in the downtown. This is sort of caught between that Larry UTech area and the downtown. We're not quite on the peninsula, but we're very, very close to it. So the pricing will put people in a very unique situation where they can kind of be in the middle of those two price points. And I think that's going to attract a different crowd. So yes, you will have some young professional empty nesters. We'll have some young professionals. We'll have some empty nesters. We'll have some families, because we have some single family homes going in there. And I think that the age range will surprise people, and we found that in a few of our buildings now. We thought, the demographics may have been young, but it's quite a broad range.
If I had to compare it to the look, let's say, of the parks of West Bedford, would that be a similar look?
No, it will be a very unique look. We're not taking anything away from the parks of West Bedford, and they have created kind of their own identity, and our brand will look different than the parks of West Bedford. As opposed to a big box where you have to, for the most part, you have to get in a car to drive, and again, not being critical of the way it's laid out, ours will be much different. It's a very walkable neighborhood. It will have a sense of sort of a town center presence, and it will have more of a sense of small community locked into it.
Now, we talked about younger families moving in, and particularly probably different age groups. I'm seeing now in my own experience where you have, let's say, the empty nesters who were initially flocking to apartment buildings. Well, first it was condos, then they went to apartment buildings. And now I'm seeing in West Bedford that some of them are buying bungalows. So do you feel that the market in there is going to attract, let's say, that type of person who's retiring to come in, and was that something that you're after, or you're just going to build, here's the lot, and this is the covenant? Is there a particular market that you want to have in there, or are you leaving that to the builder?
No, we are going to define the mix and types of homes. So 2 different products altogether: single family detached and your multi-unit sector. If we stick to the single family detached, you mentioned bungalows, there is a very small percentage of the population that wants bungalows, and it's
Yes.
generally driven by price. So the cost of land is becoming more and more expensive, the cost of servicing land is becoming more and more expensive, and the efficient builds are the 2 stories. So unless somebody has a particular requirement for a bungalow, they tend to go with a 2-story home. And that's just, it's just price driving it, and valuing a lot.
You're talking about buildings and whatnot, and so sometimes I hear when I take on a buying role that I'll bring someone to West Bedford, or I'll bring them wherever in the Larry Utech area, and the first thing that they say is, "Oh, I don't want an apartment building in my backyard." So is that like, am I going to have like this big ugly skyscraper in my backyard? Like, how do you have any idea of the layout? Because that's always something that we as a buyer agent have to overcome, and the buyer has to, wow, there's an apartment building or there's a condo building in my backyard. Is it going to be laid out so they won't have that?
The single families and the multi-unit buildings are mixed, but it's people get the wrong impression of how you tie those things together, and how the retail footprint brings the entire community together. So if you were just dropping apartment buildings randomly among single family homes, it does not work. If you look at our layout, you'll see that all of our single families back on single family homes.
Nice.
We've kept them to the perimeter of the project, and we've kept the multi-units to the center of the project to create sort of that urban cluster that will create a really cool retail offering as well. So it can be done. It has to be very deliberate and has to be planned. You can't just randomly drop multi-unit buildings in among single-family homes and expect the buyers to come in and expect it to make sense. It just won't for them.
Absolutely. So this is an odd question, but what does Seton Ridge mean to you, and would you consider living there, and why?
Well, I love Seton Ridge. So, I mean, the story on Seton Ridge is when I worked at Raymar years ago, the gentleman from Southwest came out and asked if I would be a buyer of lots as a builder in Seton Ridge. And I said, sign me up, we'll take them. I didn't even ask the price. So as soon as they described it to me, I got it immediately. And I thought, this is really what Halifax is looking for. So it's a different project that on paper, it's hard to show people. To describe it to them, you can get them so far. Trust me, when they go in and look at it, they will totally get it. And it will be very exciting. It will be the best mixed-use community that Halifax has ever seen.
We are so looking forward. Thank you for your time.